Okay, everyone, welcome back to my channel. For those that currently subscribe to my channel, I want to thank you. Those that plan on subscribing, thank you. I don't do these videos often enough because I'm working all the time. I can only be Kanye maybe twice a month if I'm lucky. Uh, but the 2.7 update had me curious because I'm coming from a push. So I wanted to see how I can incorporate the MPCX as a replacement for the push. So let's go ahead and get started to try to make this video as short as possible. So in Ableton, we're going to open up the preferences. In the preferences, now online in the Akai videos and a couple other videos that I've seen online, they show you how to record. They show you how to use the live control to control clip launching, but they don't tell you how to create your own clips using the hardware, is which is pretty much all we would like to do. So I'm going to show you that. So we're going to go to preferences. Make sure you select your audio driver. You won't be able to use your MPC as your audio driver for this because you're using the MPC in standalone. We're going to go to MIDI link and pause it here so you can actually see the settings. I'm going to move it from behind here so you can actually see the settings, and just make sure you pause it so you can see these settings. For control surface, I have the MPC4s, and then for the input and output, I have the DAW control. And then for the MIDI port, I have the Akai Network Midi set to track and remote for the input. And for the Akai Network DAW control, I have remote only. For the output, for the Akai Network Midi, I have sync and remote. And for the Akai Network DAW control, I have just remote. We'll go ahead and close that. And I set up 2 MIDI tracks so you can see what a keyboard MIDI track would look like versus a drum track setup in Ableton. So here you're going to set your MIDI from to Akai Network Midi, and then you're going to use channel 1 because you want to make sure you split up the channels. And then for the drum track, we're going to use the Akai Network Midi again, and we're going to set this to MIDI channel 2. That's done. Also in Ableton, you're going to make sure you want to set up your count in. I set mine up for 2 bars, and you'll see why in a moment, because I'm going to show you multiple ways to record into Ableton using your MPC, using live control. And then you want to make sure you have it armed. Okay. Now that you know you have it armed, you want to make sure you use this feature called the MIDI arrangement overdub. So make sure you activate that. Okay. And you can activate it from the live control as well. Okay. So now we're going to go into the MPC and show you the setup there so I can remotely control Ableton using the MPC. So we're going to go to main, and then you see I have 2 tracks set up. I have MIDI selected here for track 1, and then I have MIDI program 1, and then I have MIDI port 1 set to remote, which is letter E. That's something new that they didn't used to have until they had this network MIDI. And then we're going to set up MIDI channel 1, which corresponds to the wavetable synth in Ableton. Track 2 is set to MIDI channel 2, which is the drum track set up in Ableton on channel 2 as well. Now you see those setups. If I'm moving kind of fast, I apologize. You can rewind, fast forward, pause, whatever. Now, what we're going to do is go ahead and show you the different ways that you can record. So, the first thing we're going to do is, in Ableton, I have my drum track armed. It's red. It's armed. Unarmed, arm. There it is. I'm going to go to Pad Perform. As you well know, if you've used your MPC with Ableton, you want to make sure you're in chromatic, C major, transpose, you want to make sure it's on 1. Okay, that's going to line everything up. Let's go ahead and turn up the volume. Everything's lined up. Boom, we're ready to go. We're ready to start recording. The recording that I'm going to do is going to put the MIDI notes inside of Ableton so you can start creating your clips. And I'll show you how that's done. It's very simple. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to leave it here in main mode, or main mode Pad Perform on the MPC, and we're going to use Ableton to create the clips and launch it. So let's go ahead and get started. Now, because I'm in main mode, it's very important that you understand you cannot use the transports on the MPC. I recommend that you, if you don't have another controller, that you've MIDI mapped to control the transports in Ableton. Use your keyboard shortcuts for Ableton. It's going to be very helpful. With that said, let's go ahead and move forward. So, what I'm going to do is go ahead and go here. I've selected the track I want to record. I'm going to create a simple drum beat. I'm going to use Session Record button, which is this one right here, and that's going to allow me to start recording. So let's go ahead and get started. All right, so I recorded it. All right, it's in there. And I'm using my keyboard for my mouse transport controls. All right, I haven't quantized anything or anything. I'm just showing you how to get started. You can quantize it, do whatever. All right, so the next thing is, now that I have that in there, I have the one track. Now, because we're recording in Ableton, it's a little bit different than the MPC. So in Ableton, you're going to copy down this track. That's just basic bass and kick. All right, kick and snare, my fault, kick and snare. Then you're going to copy that down. So I'm going to right click it, duplicate it, copy it down. Now we're going to make sure we have that track selected. So that track is selected, it's green. I'm ready to go, so I can add my variation to it. So I'm going to hit Session Record again. All right. So again, in Ableton, you're creating your variations downward. So you create a little bit here, create your variation there, keep creating, keep creating. That's how you're creating your clips, and you continue to copy down as needed or just create a new one. All right. If you choose to create a new one, you'll just double click here. That creates a new track, a new one, and then you can do it one or two ways. You can leave it as is and start recording by using Session Record. Now, if you notice, it created one bar when I did that. The reason it created one bar is because down here it just says one bar. I'm going to delete that and do another one by double clicking it, and it set up a new MIDI track to start recording from, and I can set the bar length. Now, all you MPC users are going to like this if you're used to setting up your bar length. This will allow you to set up the bar length. All right, so I'm going to hit record again by hitting this session record button. Record it. Again, you're copying down. That's how you record in Ableton. Okay? All right. So that's the drum track. I showed you how to record using Ableton. If you notice, I did not go into the MPC live control update to show you that. So this is record method 1. Record method 2, we're going to be using track 1, the wavetable. We're going to start here. All right, let's go ahead and get started. So here, I'm going to hit menu, and I'm going to hit, before I hit that, let's go back to main, and I'm going to go back to track 1. I'm going to hit pad perform. If you notice in Ableton, the drum track is armed. Now, because the drum track is armed, the wavetable synth, when I try to click it here, it's not going to do anything. You're not going to hear it. Even though I'm on that track, it's the right MIDI track and everything, because it's not armed, you're not going to hear it. As soon as I arm it, you hear it, okay? Now, because in this example, I want to show you how to use the Ableton Live Control. So now we're going to go to Menu, Live Control, and then you're going to go here, arm it in Ableton Live Control. Then you're going to go back here to clip record so we can start recording. All right. So here's where everything gets a little bit tricky and convoluted. So I'm going to show you two ways, the one way of doing it and another way of doing it. So let's go ahead and get started. So I have that armed. I'm ready to go. I'm going to go ahead and click, tap the pad 13 to go ahead and get started. Now, to do this, I have to click pad 13, tap the main button, tap the pad perform button, and then I can start recording my MIDI notes. Let's go ahead and get started. All right, they're in there. You see them. It's there. Okay. Again, this example is showing you how to use live control. So we're going to go back to menu. We're going to hit live control. I've recorded that new track. I'm going to copy it down by hitting the copy button on my MPC. MPC. Now, quick reminder. When you're using live control, you have access to all the transport control, all the record functions in Ableton when you're in live control mode. When you're in main mode, it's very important that you understand that you're going to be using an outside controller that you've already pre-mapped to the Ableton software, or you can use your keyboard shortcuts. Again, make sure you remember this tip. Rewind it, play back again, listen to that tip. It's very important. All right, so I've copied down that track. Now, here's where things gets a little bit tricky. When you copy down that track, if you try to use the pad record to start recording, it's not there because there's something already there. So it thinks you just want to launch it. All right. Next thing is, if you use record, pay attention. It does nothing. It does nothing. All right. Well, here's a cool thing about this new live control that Akai has put into the software that's very smart. So if you hit overdub, that's the same as hitting session record button in Ableton. All right. So we have that track. It's lit up. It's highlighted. We're going to hit overdub, main, tab perform, and start recording our notes. So I've added some variation to the wavetable synth. I go back to main menu, go back to live control, copy that down. That created the variation. So now I'm going to add another variation to it. I'm going to hit overdub again, main, tab perform. All right. So I recorded those variations. I'm going to go back to main, go back to live control. Now I've just recorded clips directly into Ableton. My MIDI notes are there. I'm using the Ableton VSTs or whatnot or whatever to create right into Ableton. If you want to launch your clip, all right, so that gives you an idea of how to actually record directly into Ableton using the 2.7 live control features. Okay. All right. Now, the next thing is I'm going to show you some two cool features. And this video got longer than I would have thought it would have gotten, so I apologize. But I thank you guys for listening. Hopefully this helps somebody out. So I'm going to go ahead and delete all these tracks here. All right, I've deleted the tracks. Now, Ableton has this cool feature. I'm going to go ahead and hold down the shift button, select the drum track. Ableton has this cool feature. Go back to main, and then go back to the drum track, and then go back to pad perform. And for this, to make the video shorter, I'm going to go ahead and arm the drum track so you can hear it. All right, Ableton has this cool feature called MIDI capture. All right, if you've ever been tapping out a beat and you're like, oh, that shit is banging, and then you go to hit record, and then you start to try to do it to the tempo that you set, or the click, or the clap, you know, whatever, and it messes you up, this feature you're going to really enjoy. So you just tap out the beat, whatever you're feeling, just tap it out. Ableton's going to capture that. All right. All right, I had no record on in Ableton, no record on the MPC. Now I'm going to go to menu, live control, and then up here in Ableton, I'm going to hit capture MIDI. That's this square here. So if you notice, it captured all the MIDI notes. The next, it captured all the MIDI notes in Ableton right here. You may need to quantize it. You may need to adjust some things. It may be a little off, but you just adjust these brackets however you need to. The other thing is, if there's no clips in here at all, based on what you did, it automatically sets the tempo for you. So that can get you started off real quick. All right, I'm going to go ahead and delete that. The next trick is I think I showed you this earlier, but if you didn't catch it, in Ableton, if you double click where there's no clip, it'll create a new MIDI clip for you, and you can set the length here. So if you want to set a 4-bar length, 8-bar length, however, if you one of those people that like to record freely, you don't even need to set it. But if you like to have your bar set it. You can set it here. Now, you can also right click, duplicate, duplicate, keep duplicating, copying it down so it keeps that length for whatever. Or you can copy and paste it over into the next side. Copy, paste, and that creates your length. So that's a fast way of using Ableton as well. You already know if you copy down a 4-bar length, it's going to be 4 bars. But if you want to set your project up ahead of time, you could do that. Okay? So those are some quick tips on how to use Ableton Live Control using just the MPC, no external device like they show in the video where you got to use a separate device just to get notes in and stuff like that. You can just use the MPC. Hopefully this helped you guys out. Thank you for tuning in. Sorry the video got longer than it needed to be, but I needed to make sure I showed you these 2 different variations. Thank you guys for subscribing. Thank you for watching. Talk to you soon. Keep creating great music. Talk to you later.